Hello everyone, been a while since I've uploaded to this channel, but I figured I would, there we go, give you all some more tips. So, we're gonna come back to the spear, because I wanted to remake the video on the spear and the ways it could be utilized in combat. Now, keep in mind, I am not, like, full-on expert, alright? I make these videos for fun. You are allowed to correct me in the comments section, alright? But regardless, we're out here in my backyard today, and I have the spear from Fate. But for purposes, we are just going to use this as just a traditional spear. So, spear's pretty long. In fact, very long. The Greeks had longer versions of spears called pikes that usually extended far beyond and were great for their shield walls. Well, they could charge the enemy, and they would usually the people with the pikes would be in the back with the spears with the pikes in between the shield wall of the men. That way, when they charged forward, they were piercing the enemy lines and also protecting themselves. They would have designated people to hold the shield and designated people to hold the pike. So, this was a very effective strategy in ancient warfare. In fact, it was so effective that they had a shortened version of it, the hoplite. Hoplites usually carried spears like this and a shield arm. I don't have a shield arm with me for today, but for purposes, just imagine. And usually they had a round circular hole on the side that they would have the spear through. They could bash, they could stab, they could wave it around to keep people back. It's a very effective tool. Again, the spear is probably one of the oldest weapons in human history. Like I said in last episode, it's a long stick with a pointy end. But as it was perfected, it was easier to use and throw. So, in what ways could a spear be used for? Simple. It is a melee weapon that has range. If you can see here, holding it at the end, of course you wouldn't normally do this, I have a lot of range to work with. A lot of range to move this around in motion. Okay. And of course, the more you grip it to where this is, the more control you have over your weapon. But you have to remember all this leeway. It's better to grab it in the center and hold it with both hands if you're just using the spear and not a shield with it. It's great for clearing crowds, jabbing from far away, among other things. Spears are pretty resourceful and pretty useful. And of course, as I said in the last episode, humans developed the ability with their minds to do basic math, like calculate the distance needed to throw a spear. Here. Which is an innately human trait, in fact, due to our high intelligence, to be able to calculate the distance on which to throw said spear. So, how well would a spear work? Well, spears have long range. Swinging a spear around makes people not want to be around you anymore. It is, in fact, a pretty decent crowd control weapon, like halberds, though halberds are used more than spears. Spears are flimsy and can snap if hit the wrong way. So usually you won't see someone doing wild movements like this, you know, trying to do wild movements like that with a spear. That's just not what happens. Usually, they're more precision strike weapons. You see a gap in your enemy's armor, you go for it. Strike it, move back. Pretty effective. And it keeps your distance. No one wants to be on the end of a sharp stick. So, you can keep your distance from your enemy. And in case slash, or stab. Again, fairly effective. Sweeping motions are cool and make for some very flashy anime fights, but that's not how you're going to use a spear. You just don't do that. Spears are mainly for thrusting, quick cuts, or to keep your enemy at a safe distance away from you. If one guy has a spear and the other guy has a sword, I bet my money on the guy with the spear, because, but of course, depends on how long the sword is. There are long swords, yes, and they get lots of clearance. If you can manage to cut your opponent's spear in half, well, then they just kind of have a blunt stick. That could be sharp on the end still, but it's not going to do more damage. It's going to do less than what it had with the sharp metal end. So, spears, practical weapon, very good for close fight and thrusting. Though, in my opinion, I wouldn't use a spear for a close-up fight. Spears are always going to be the optimal play when wanting to keep range from your opponent. Because with a spear, your whole purpose is to keep the bad people away from you. If you are in close, the guy is in close into my face, and I have a spear, I have to draw my weapon back to slice. Sure, could I use this end to cut? Yeah, but I don't have a lot of room to keep momentum. Meanwhile, we'll use this sword. I have lots of momentum to cut here, here, but with a spear, it'll snap like that. So, it's really hard to kind of get cuts in, especially when you have so much lag back in the end. So, spears are always going to be better to just be used at a distant length, thrust, or make wide cuts that's further from your opponent. Never, ever try to do flashy stuff like this with a spear, because not only is that terrible in a combat sense, but your metal end is way harder than this. So if your enemy manages to even catch this on their arm, if they're swinging it really fast, you will break your spear, and then you have no more weapon. So, I will answer the question again. Is the spear a good modern weapon? No. But that's not the point. We're here to exercise why exactly the spear was a good weapon back in the day. And of course, it's one of the simplest weapons here before bows and arrows. It's sharp, long, and throwable. This was Floridian Martial Arts. Thank you for watching.